Welcome to another edition of Social Media Help Desk. I'm Jeff Soto, and I'm wearing the absolute worst shirt for this backdrop for this live stream. Joining me are two of our strongest content editors. Of course, they're all strongest. We have Olivia, and we have Taylor G. You may be familiar with the other Taylor. This is Taylor G.
Hi.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today on Social Media Help Desk. We're glad to have you along. For all the people out there that are sharing this feed with their friends, thank you. If you have questions for us, tag us in the comments, ask questions, tag your friends in the comments. We're here to help. We're going to start with a couple of the news items in the last few days that surround social media. And then from there, we're going to get in some helpful hints on Instagram and Facebook, especially if you're running ads. These will be very important for you. Ladies, how are you today? Let's start off with that.
Good. Happy to be here.
Yes, you are.
It's a beautiful day in sunny southern Orange County, California.
This is true. So here we go. Let's talk a little bit about news. And the first thing is interesting. And we see AI in everything we do online. Pinterest, which you think is a very docile platform and you'd be very mellow when you're on there. Pinterest doesn't think so. And so it's enacting some new features that really cares about your well-being. And what they're going to do is if you start searching things like suicide or any other harmful words on Pinterest, they're going to give you a little online counseling. What do you guys think about this?
Well, at first I was kind of the same. I didn't realize that people would search those kinds of things on Pinterest. It's really bad to think about. But I think it's a really great thing that they're doing. They're also going to be incorporating stress pinning and breathing exercises. So if they can tell that somebody is stress pinning or pinning too much and they're on there relieving stresses, then breathing exercises are going to be popped up as an option for you to do. It just sounds so off the wall, but I mean, I guess it happens.
Yeah, I find it to be very interesting because I'm curious to know what they look for to determine whether someone is stress pinning, because I think every time I go on Pinterest, it's usually I have this vision in my mind, so I am actively pinning, but I'm not stressed. I'm actually quite excited.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, how are they going to decipher like what's a stress pin situation versus what's just somebody that's very enthusiastic about something that they're planning to do or planning to purchase, pinning aggressively. So that will be interesting to see how that rolls out. Yeah, and I think it's also great about the fact that they are going to be saying, hey, pause if you are searching for harmful terms. I think it's definitely important that they are taking a little bit of responsibility and saying, hey, we're not trying to encourage this behavior. We just want you to think twice, you know?
You used a good word there, aggressive. And yeah, we all kind of are puzzled by someone being aggressive on Pinterest. I'm curious. Do you think there's any one platform that stands out above the rest as being one where people are aggressive?
Instagram.
Yes.
100%.
Instagram?
Yeah.
Is that haters and trolls? Because I would think it'd be Twitter. So,
I think Twitter too, but we spend less time on Twitter, us personally.
Yes.
what do you think about
Well,
Instagram?
I would think Instagram because, like I said, like she says, I don't hang out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally.
But what do you see on Instagram that would show you that type of behavior, reveal that type of behavior?
Beehive goes for people that say anything.
Beehive?
Oh, they'll buzz anything out.
Yeah, I would think it would be like haters and trolls, especially on celebrities. I see it all the times on the Housewives accounts, especially after a new episode airs. It's kind of like a way to go recap things that are happening. Yeah.
After Bachelorette or Bachelor, if they didn't like the way somebody acted in an episode, they'll go and leave comments underneath that person's page on Instagram, like, you should have done that, you're wrong, you're just stirring up drama. People have a lot of opinions behind the screen.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, Beehive, that's the fans of the minor
Beyonce.
league Salt Lake City Peas.
No, Beyonce.
I kid. All right. So yeah, an interesting thing, and I think Twitter, people go on there to, and maybe it's what you guys see on Instagram, but they lie in wait to challenge people at all times, and like they go there to start fights. And while it's a great customer service tool, you really can interact with brands that pay great attention to the channel, but you see a lot of trollish behavior, I think, on Twitter, just like you do Instagram. Now you guys brought up some things. It actually makes sense to me that, yeah, there is a lot of that out there.
I also think a lot of people are unintentional on Instagram, and I don't like that. Like, I think when we're representing brands, we like intentional things. We're intentional about the likes we give out and who we interact with, and I think you see lots of people just giving out likes way too loose and it's not intentional. And I think that's kind of the sporadic, aggressive scrolling and tweeting and that.
Yeah. mindful of their behavior.
It's interesting you guys say that because it's a good segue into the next story. But the one thing we did cover last week was the whole Instagram removing the likes out of there. And do you think, and I know this was discussed last week, but do you think that that would curb some of the nasty out there if people know that their comments aren't being, I don't know if it's seen or valued or what
But
that
it's
is?
just the likes, the comments are still showing, right?
Yeah.
So
But will you engage with a post? Like, do people go comment on posts that have 10,000 likes versus one that has 10 likes?
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
lose that total and you don't know, how?
Well, you'll know their followers, but they're also going to be rounding the followers out, right?
That's
I mean,
right.
you'll still see a massive number if you know.
Mhm.
And people tend to troll the same people. They know whose pages they go on, they know who they follow, that they're already there, so
True.
it probably won't change it much.
All right, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Okay, another story that's in the news. There's a senator out of Missouri. His name's Josh Hawley. He has introduced a bill that would ban mindless scrolling on social media.
I know what we were just talking about.
And yeah, exactly. And I don't know about you guys. Before I kind of talk about what he's specifically referencing here, I'm a big watcher of social media habits. If I'm in the dentist's office or the doctor's office, or I'm waiting somewhere at the restaurant, I do watch people just scroll, and I don't know what they're on. I'm not that close of a watcher, but do you guys see that kind of behavior? Do you think there's a mindless scrolling that happens online? I don't even think it's limited to social media. I think you could be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think mindless scrolling does suck, and it wouldn't have been an issue if they didn't take away the chronological order. Because people don't know what they've
Yes.
seen or haven't seen,
Yes.
so they're going to keep scrolling to see if they've missed something.
Yes.
But when we have the chronological order, oh, I only missed 3 posts, I'm done,
Yes.
put my phone away. And so maybe they'll bring that back,
Yeah.
and that can be a way.
Exactly. That's a great point, bringing it back to the chronological order, because once you've gone down the feed and you start to see, oh, that's stuff I've already seen,
Yeah, you're
you
done.
know that, oh, that's old content.
But when you never know what you're
Yes.
missing, that's where you're like sucked into the feed.
And then things are shown to you that are from 6 days ago, 3 hours ago, depending on how people
Yeah.
are interacting with the
Yeah.
post. That really does affect, like, hey, I'm trying to just catch up with what's going on, you know?
Mhm.
So three of the things.
Don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So three of the things that they introduced in this bill were the infinity scroll. They want to somehow ban that. They want to ban autoplay, which I can't stand
I
autoplay.
can't either.
I like to go to sports sites, and when things start screaming at me, and before I even get a bearing of what's on the page.
Or in the office when you're scrolling and your phone should be on silent.
Or,
Do we have an issue we need to talk with Mr. HR about this?
or ads. I hate it when you go on the site and
Yes.
the ads just automatically start blasting in your face.
Yeah.
Well, and think about it. I mean, nobody really wants to be served ads. They can benefit from ads, and we run a lot of ads for clients.
I disagree with that, but
But my question is, and you can explain why, but my question is, as a person paying for ads, do you want an audience that's ready to receive your ad, or do you want to just hit them at, cold like that? Because
no, ready to receive is
Right.
what I'm going to defend.
okay, so yeah, no, I would agree. I think there's a time and a place where you're okay to receive ads, but I think when you go to a website, something launches on you that you're not expecting, I think there's almost a negative effect
A
to it.
very negative effect. That touch point, especially if it's a new brand, that initial touch point, people remember that. And it's very brash, and nobody wants to be hit like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Were you gonna add something to?
Well, kind of the ready to receive. I love when, everyone's listening to me through my speakers and my microphones, and I get served the ad of what I was asking for. I love that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind the hacking when it comes to that. And I'm like, I talk about these gold shoes that I want, and then I get on Facebook, and there's the perfect gold shoes. I'll take that all day long. It saves me time.
It does. There's no question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like this will segue into one of our later segments, but I definitely feel like the ads on Instagram and Facebook are way more targeted, so I'm more welcoming of them because they're more in tune with what I'm actually looking
Yeah,
for
they're
and what I'm
tailored.
interested in. So those sorts of ads, yes, but when I'm on like a website and I see a display ad, or I may see something such as like a video ad that's on a site that I don't usually frequent, no, those ads usually aren't as tailored and aren't usually geared towards me as effectively. So on top of it just being blasted in my face, it is very jarring because it's not what I wanted.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because ads are a way of life. Like pre-DVR and VHS days, you had to watch commercials when you watched TV. If you got a newspaper, they were in there, and your eyes could avoid them if you wanted to. But ads are a way of life. It's how businesses get their products out there, and they kind of there's no way to live a virtually ad-free environment. And like you said, I think social media ads get a little bit of heat, but they're concentrated to what you're looking for. And I think, is it Big Brother-ish? Maybe, but if you're going to be served ads, be served relevant ads. And I'm a big person, and I don't know if this is the marketer in me, I think it is, but also I'm just curious. Every time I get to set a lot of hair loss ads, and I think I have a pretty good head of hair. I don't know.
Decent.
Thank you. And so like, I will look.
They're just targeting your age and your demographic.
They are. Well, you know what I've seen is I will go in I will do this on Facebook. I will hit it and report it, and then say it's irrelevant, and then ask who they're targeting. And I can't believe how wide and general ad targeting is out there. And we'll get into this later with your Facebook ads, but you just have people out there, men 30 plus in US, and like, that isn't a good ad strategy, and I think I see a lot of that. I don't know if you guys check a lot of the demographics when you're serving an ad.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yes, I walk you through it. It's fantastic. Like, I do this all day long, and I'm blown away that the targeting is not better. So if you are out there and you're running ads and you don't have some good qualifiers in there, give us a call, because there's a lot of wasted money out there, and sometimes I'll troll a little bit, I'll be honest with you. Let's get real here.
Yeah.
I will troll it and comment back like I'm trying to think, AARP, I'll get served something, and I know I'm old, but I'm not that old, and something about retirement, and I wish I could retire, but I can't.
Birthday coming
Yeah,
up?
I do, thank you. But I will comment on the ad, like, you need to fix your targeting, like, this isn't good, there's no way I should be served this ad. And I think a lot of people blindly pay for ads, and they get a very generic offering of male and female between 18 and 64 in the US. That's what, 300 million people? And that's not a good ad. So it will be interesting. I think the other thing I didn't mention is streaks. This senator wants to end streaks, which is on Snapchat. I know my daughters would probably freak out about that.
Yeah, I didn't realize what you're talking about
Yeah,
right now.
Snapchat streaks. So that's in that bill as well. I know we got kind of sidetracked on some things there, but
I guess I understand that, because it's kind of like with the infinity scroll. The streak encourages you to keep snapping that person every day to keep the streak going. So I get it.
and that's part of this bill. I said mindless scrolling, but it really is about social media addiction.
Consuming your time.
Yeah, it's the addiction. And I think if you have a teenager at home and you don't have that phone locked up, they probably spend a lot of time on that. So
not just the teenagers. I
That's
see
just
my
true.
mother in the car everywhere she's going. Where
hopefully
she's
not while driving.
Oh no, she doesn't drive. Everywhere she goes, she's on her phone, getting distracted.
It's interesting though, and I don't know if it's because I am a marketer, but I mean, all mindless scroll, it happens to all of us. But I still like ads. Like, everyone gets so mad at me. My whole group of friends, you guys know who you are. They get so mad when I play my Spotify because I don't pay for it, and I don't mind the ads. Like, getting a 30-second ad every 16 songs, it doesn't bother me.
Okay,
It's kind of like a break, and I like that I don't have the control, because it's kind of a surprise of what's going to play next, instead of like always being, I don't know, I just like, it loses its, I don't know, to me it loses how special it is. I like the like surprise element of like Pandora, because you're still in like a genre. I love radio ads because they're so corny, and I just think it's hilarious. So I don't know, I still am like a fan of the ads,
I will say,
whether
I
they're
don't
relevant or
YouTube
not.
ads. I don't like YouTube ads, and I don't like. Well, I pay for my Apple Music stuff. I don't like that. I pay for my YouTube too.
Yeah.
So I don't like that.
YouTube ads are the worst, because they'll just like cut in the middle of the video you're watching. And
Oh
it
my
doesn't
gosh,
flow at all.
the way they place them sometimes. Oh.
But again, I think that comes down to bad marketing.
Yes.
Because
That's
we run YouTube ads for clients, they're successful,
Yeah.
and I think it really comes down to paying attention. You cannot just turn on an ad account and just spray and pray. You really can't. You have to have the right mindset. So, for example, if you were looking up off-roading trucks in 4x4 and the ad was specifically geared towards that, you'd probably appreciate that. But getting a perfume ad while you're searching truck videos, or getting a truck video while you're searching face care, I know you're big into skincare, you don't want to be served, shovels and rakes and tools or trucks. So
Unless it's for your man.
that's right. But I mean, again, it comes down to bad targeting. I don't think the ads are bad. It's
The
the
management.
management behind it. That's
Well,
right.
I think of YouTube we're getting a bit off track really quickly, but with YouTube, it's the YouTuber chooses where it's placed. So sometimes they put very awkward placements. so that they can pack in as many ads as possible. So even if it was an on-target ad in terms of the content of the ad, the way they place it in the video can be very disruptive to the video.
That's how it is in podcasts now too. They have so many. I listened to one podcast and they were interviewing someone, and he was talking. Speaking of suicide, he was talking about a suicide attempt, and it was so intense listening. And then she cut him in the middle of the story to do a hair care ad.
Sometimes,
and I was like, that was the worst, worst marketing I'd ever heard in my life.
Yes, sometimes the way that they choose to place the break, because I don't think they choose what ad goes there.
Yeah.
They choose where to put an ad break in their content,
It was so
and
bad.
it is terrible. It is terrible sometimes. Terrible.
Yeah, again, make sure if you're running ads, you have a comprehensive strategy of who your audience is and where you're showing these ads. It makes a huge difference.
Yes.
You know, another thing, this is kind of a general message about hacking. Accounts get hacked all the time, and I was looking through the headlines, and I saw that Jessica Alba's, she's an actress, and she founded that company. What, Honest?
Honest.
Yeah.
Is it that honest?
Honest Beauty. Oh, I don't know.
Well, that's not for our place
Yeah.
to say, but her Twitter was hacked, I think, a week ago, and then a few days later, her Instagram was hacked. And you know, here's a celebrity you think would be mindful of people trying to get in. Also, LinkedIn was hacked, and somebody posted a job for the Google CEO position. And so, our point in this is, you know, whether you're using your channels or you're not using your channels frequently, update your passwords. Make sure your passwords are secure. I won't say what it is, but I was showing a colleague, Steven, who's sitting over here, he's our camera person today, who, we're breaking the fourth wall here. We had a password that must have been 50 characters long, and it was a sentence, I think it was, you know, but make it so that people can't easily break it. There is a bad element out there online. Protect yourself, especially if you're a brand. It only takes 5 minutes for someone to get in and unleash a spew of hate that can really bring down your brand and put you into crisis communications mode, and it's a place you don't want to be. And you know, I think, I don't know, you guys have any helpful tips of how to protect your accounts on social? You guys manage a lot of accounts.
I think not only having complex passwords, but changing those passwords once a month, routinely, so they're always changing, they're never the same. Don't relate them to anything to do with your business date or your business or your name or your birthday. I can't tell you how many people's phones and passwords I can get into. Or when I ask them for their password, I'm just blown away. I was like, I don't even know why I asked. I could have guessed it. But they're so obvious.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think you should use the same password on the same accounts. I see that happen a lot too.
True. It does happen a lot, because if they can somehow find a way in to one,
They can
they can
try
get
it
them
on
all.
everything.
Yeah, they can get them all quickly, and they work fast. And it's not even a single person trying to break in. It's coding and computers that are trying to access all these accounts. And so, you know, unfortunately, the AI can be used in a malicious way, and that's one of them. The last little in the news piece is a good segue for our next story. Is Instagram recently, according to many users, purged a lot of accounts. And some of these accounts had as many as 30 million followers, and the commonality, there hasn't been much of an official, I guess there was a small comment made by a Facebook executive about it, but there hasn't been a whole lot of news. But all these people were running accounts that mostly had memes, and they were doing some kind of promotional money technique that was getting them some kind of income, but most of their content was memes. And I think when we sit down and talk to people, we've talked to people about using graphics or using memes or funny things. Instagram may not be the best place to have an account where that's all that it is. And the one, I think it was Insider, was one of the online publications that was talking about this breach or this purge, and they said that a Facebook rep acknowledged that they can't cut the accounts. However, they said it wasn't necessarily tied to the promotional. There were various other ways that they were skirting the system and violating the rules. And so I just think obviously they were doing something right to make money, but from a content standpoint, filling your feed with a bunch of graphics typically isn't the best thing. You don't get real interaction and real followers. What do you guys have thoughts on that? And then we'll segue into what you've got next.
Yeah, definitely not. It's definitely not a best practice of ours here at KWSM to do graphics on Instagram. Also, a lot of these memes and graphics are reused, so they're not original, and I see a lot of people that were the original creators of them, which are comedians and people that take it really serious, they're kind of losing some of their prestige because other accounts are taking them. So I think it's kind of a good thing, but it's, to me, just graphics and all that is silly on those platforms. Because Instagram will reward you for using aesthetically pleasing photos. And most likely if you've seen a meme once, then it's not going to do as well many times.
Yeah, I think, I think where you run into problems is when you're just, like you said, you're repeating something that's been seen several dozen times. And I think that's the one trap about social media. People love sharing things that they don't have the rights to, whether it's a funny quote or it's imagery. And, if you do that on your website, the people that own those photos, Getty Images and some of the other, certainly the paparazzi or photographic media outlets out there, they'll come after you. And I think at some point that will make its way to social media, and they'll start going after people using photos and content, video as well, that they don't have license to. And only, I think there have been times where comedians are a great example, where they will say to another comedian, "That's my joke, get it off your feed." And people are quick to go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll take it down," but it's kind of, they've already presented it as their own work. And it's just a careful
It'll never be funny again.
That's right, it won't. It'll be remembered for something else. So speaking of an authentic feeling on Instagram, you're going to share a little bit about growing your Instagram following in an authentic way with genuine followers and some tactics. Will you share that, Taylor, please?
Yeah, so I'm going to go over how to grow your Instagram following, and this is part 2 of a 2-blog series that Olivia wrote. And so if you follow our blogs, you can see part 1, and that's kind of how to just set up your account and polish it off. And then once you kind of have it established, then we can get into this. But yeah, so first things first to use on your Instagram to grow your following. It's hard to grow following. We have clients come to us all the time that say, "Why haven't we gone viral overnight?" And it just doesn't work like that. Also, viral would not be a thing if that's how it worked. But there are a lot of tips and tricks that we do here at the agency on all of our clients' posts that boost them to grow their followings organically and inorganically. First things first are using hashtags. Hashtags, easiest way to put it is to categorize your photo into these little buckets. Katie Wagner she's coined the term buckets for hashtags, and now I use that every time. Yeah, so you're putting your photo into different buckets. A big thing we say here at the agency, though, is making those buckets relevant and also not going after the most filled buckets. Because if you're hashtagging a food picture with the hashtag food, there are millions of food pictures being put into that bucket, just hiding yours away from the top of the feed. So maybe food of Orange County or food of Atlanta would make it a little more broad and not get it buried down. And so when people search that hashtag, yours will still be at the top of the bucket to be seen. And that's a way to kind of grow your following. Another thing to look at is location tags. And this is really great because people search locations a lot of the time. Even when we search for user-generated content for clients, we search locations. And so it's just another way to do a bucket, and you can use a location on any photo. It doesn't even necessarily have to be 100% accurate or taken at that location, but maybe relevant to that, whether that's where a business is or something like that. And both of those ways are organically ways to grow your followings. You guys have anything you want to add into hashtags?
Oh, you're on a roll.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going. Second thing is Instagram ads. So we were kind of talking about ads. I won't get too much into this because we just spent a lot of time on it, but you can create Instagram ads through the Facebook Manager or through Instagram boosting, and you can put them in Instagram stories, Instagram feeds, and a good way to get people to your page is linking your page in your ad. And that's another way to grow your following. This is not considered organic because you're paying for more of a reach. But sometimes that's the best way to go about for our clients. It's not bad to be inorganic, it's just kind of, it is what it is. And I think there's something to be said about when your page does grow organically, but also that's why we do reports and we track our ads, because we want to make sure that the money spent on these ads is bringing in enough traffic to justify that money being spent.
And the follow is organic, but
Yeah,
the reach
totally.
isn't.
Yeah,
That's right.
yes.
Good point.
Which is based on how good the content is that you put out there to be reached. So that's a really good point, Olivia. The third thing, sorry, I'm skipping around, is to cross-promote your Instagram account on other platforms. This is really big. If you run a Twitter, you have your website, you have a Facebook, you should put your handles for all your platforms on every one of those about sections or keywords. You can even do this in YouTube. YouTube, there's a description section. You can have your website, your Instagram handle, your Facebook, and this is kind of like backlinking, and you can link to all these accounts, and that's another good way to grow your following. I'm gonna keep that one really simple. And then last but not least are influencers. This is so popular. We also get a lot of clients asking for influencer marketing. Influencers are known to be users on Instagram and other platforms. Are there Facebook influencers?
There might be. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure somebody's profiting off of it.
It's Instagram YouTubers kind of where they dominate. However, I did see another in the news that LinkedIn is creating influencers.
I believe that.
They're
Yeah,
called
I see
creators
that.
now on LinkedIn. Anyways, working with influencers, this is a way to work with someone that has a big following to get their loyal followers to your page. This is another thing that we want to stress to be relative to your brand. You know, why would a lawyer work with a cooking influencer? It just makes no sense at all. But if you have, a vitamin company, then a mom blogger who cares about like health and wellness for her kids would be a great influencer matchup.
Yeah.
And that's really a good way to do it. And you can do this. It doesn't always cost money to work with influencers. There's terms called micro influencers. You can exchange product for posts. You can do giveaways. There's all sorts of ways to incorporate this for your company.
Awesome. Yeah, those are definitely some helpful tips to build your brand up on Instagram without going crazy and trying to copy a lot of people or spraying it out to people. You can really find the people that care. And then it's a good segue into the Facebook ads, because that's the major player out there in the social media space. A lot of people use Facebook ads because that's the biggest platform.
Yes.
Share with us what's new and what's changing in Facebook ads.
So Facebook ads is recently changing, coming August 19th. It's going to be a minimal change, but it can be impactful and it could be beneficial to those that are content creators for the ads. So on August 19th, starting then, on mobile news feeds, the ads that appear there will have 3 lines of primary text instead of more. Before, it would allow you to have more text. And then also the maximum height for photos and videos will be reduced to 4:5 ratio. Basically meaning that it'll be a shorter height of your image, and then you'll only have like 3 lines of text on top. So if you want to write more, you can still write more, but users will be prompted to see more, click more, to read more if they want to learn more about the ad that they're interacting with.
I'm actually already seeing that in my ad previews for some of my clients that I write longer about.
Well, the interesting thing is depending on how you set your ad up, if they click see more, that counts as a click and an engagement. And so
Is that a good thing?
not necessarily, no. And so this will challenge you to not write a huge thing of copy in your ad. Keep it concise. If you keep it less than 3 lines, then that see more won't be there. And so then if you're paying for engagements, you're only going to pay when they actually like the post or click on the photo or comment. And so you will get more of what you're looking for, keeping the content tight, than you will having a lot of content that goes below the fold, as we'd say on a website. So keep that in mind. That having see more doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to read that information. If they do, you might pay. You're going to be charged for that.
So essentially, this is beneficial for those people that are creating content, because instead of having to do maybe one ad for Facebook ads that are running on mobile feed and another one, create different content and change the aspect ratios of the content for running on Instagram, you could just use the same one for both if you're hitting both platforms for the same audience.
No, that is helpful.
Yes. So that is basically the change. So it's something to be mindful of if you are creating ads for your clients, or if you're creating ads for yourself and your business. So yeah, that's all. Not a big change, but it's a little change with a lot of impact.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We've enjoyed being with you for this half hour, and hopefully you've learned something. And again, if you want, anytime you have questions, feel free to reach out in the comments section. That'd be great. We'll be happy to answer your comment. Until then, we'll see you next Tuesday. Someone will see you next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Keep trucking on the social media highway.
Bye.
Bye.